Well, good afternoon. I want to welcome you to the Fireplace Show today. And we're bringing this show to you today because of an incident that occurred. And we felt that it would be really good to put information out today to American consumers about the danger that lurks in their ashes. Now, I've got a co presenter with me today. I'm going to bring him on right now. His name is Ryan Reed. And Ryan is a chimney sweep, he's a chimney service technician, does a lot of heavy restoration of masonry chimneys, also has a retail outlet up in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. So, Ryan, let's tell them a little bit about yourself, please, sir.
Sure. Well, it's great to be on the show here today, Jerry. And so I've been in the industry about 20 years. And what we do on a daily basis is we inspect chimneys, we repair them, we do new installations, basically anything fireplace or chimney related. And the great thing about our industry is it's constantly changing. It's been growing over the last few years and improving. And on a daily basis, we get to educate customers, and that's what it's all about. Is how do we bring people up to increase their knowledge about fire safety.
That's it. I met Ryan a couple years ago at the HPBA show. That is our national show for fireplace dealers, people in the industry, and we had a really good conversation, developed a really good relationship with Ryan since that time. And this is what I found out. Ryan is one of the technicians, and his company as a whole does some very thorough inspections of chimneys. I mean, it's down to every detail is covered. But today we don't want to talk about chimney inspections. We want to talk about the danger that lurks in the ashes. See, that's one of the things about burning wood is you're going to have something left over that is the ashes. And what happens every single year is we have bad incidents that occur. Earlier today, I saw in social media that yesterday in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia, that apartment complex caught on fire and did massive damage, and it's attributed to the ashes that were improperly stored. So, Ryan, do you share my concern that people are not properly disposing of their ashes?
Yeah, we see it all the time. I mean, one of the things that people you get confused about is when they look inside their fireplace or they go to shovel them up, it looks like everything's out. But once you start moving that white ash around, what you uncover is a hot coal that's in there. It's like a sleeping bag, kind of keeping everything nice and hot. And so you have to be aware of that.
Yeah. And Ryan, probably there was times that you and I weren't even aware of this. I can think of the time, and I've told this story before. It's about before I ever got in this industry, and I decided that I wanted to clean the ashes out in my fireplace. I was much younger, and I wanted to make it really neat and clean. So I swept all the ashes up and I shoveled them out. And then when I got it down to that, I had a little bit of ash left. So what I did, I went and got my wife's vacuum cleaner out of the closet, came in and sucked that last little bit of ashes up, thinking, okay, big deal. Put the vacuum cleaner back in the closet. Well, I told my wife, I said, I need to go Sears and pick up a few things. And when I got to Sears, they were calling my name over the intercom. Is there a Jerry Isenhour in the store? Well, I went back there to see what was going on. They said, you need to call your wife. And when I called my wife, she said, I don't know what you did, but that vacuum cleaner started smoking in the closet. We had to throw it out in the yard. But luckily, it didn't catch on fire. Now, Ryan, let me ask you a question. Have you ever sucked up ashes and bad things might have happened in your life before you became aware of these problems?
Yeah, absolutely. Early on in my career, I would say probably when I'd say 18 or 19 years old, newer to the industry, I went and I had a really high quality vacuum. And, in order to keep the filtration clean in people's homes, there's a paper filter that goes in there. And I was in somebody's home and I was doing a chimney sweep and cleaned everything out. Job went well, but put everything in my truck. I'm driving down the road to my next job, and all of a sudden my truck started filling up with smoke. And once you know it, that vacuum caught on fire in my truck. So these were things that, I saw coal and ash every day, and yet I didn't recognize that a little bit of hot coal could do such damage to my vacuum there. So it's something never to forget.
Right. And we can laugh about this. And what Ryan has done, believe it or not, there's been quite a few chimney sweep vacuums that have burned up in this world. And Ryan, you didn't get hurt from this, did you?
No.
Did you just have your feelings hurt maybe?
Yeah, I learned a good lesson.
You learned a good lesson. Well, see, that's great when you can learn a good lesson. And we want to appreciate everybody. Yvette, appreciate you joining us today. Brandy, you also. We really appreciate you being on here, because what this is all about is being able to share knowledge with consumers. So if you're on here, feel free to share this on your social platforms to help get the dangers out. Now, Ryan, one of the incidents that really haunts me was several years ago on Christmas Day. And this is a story that goes back to Stamford, Connecticut. And when it was more than just burning up a vacuum cleaner. And for that, I'm going to go to and I'm going to play a news clip from Stamford, Connecticut. And this shows you, if you don't understand, one of the things you see on my thing right now, if you look on the heading I have, it says, "Don't let your ashes make an ash out of you or your loved ones." So we're going to play this news clip from Stamford, Connecticut. And watch this carefully, please. This is going to go about 4 to 5 minutes, folks.
Crews tore down a Connecticut home where 3 children and their grandparents died in a fire Christmas morning. Cell phone video shows how flames quickly spread through the house just before 5 a.m.
First units on the scene attempted rescues within the structure that were pushed back by intense flame and heat.
The fire gutted the Victorian-style home that sits along the Long Island Sound. A well-known advertising executive, Madonna Badger, owns the house and escaped, along with a male contractor who was helping with the renovation. But Badger's 3 daughters, a 10-year-old and twin 7-year-olds, and her parents could not get out. Her father died in the fire hours after spending Christmas Eve working as Santa Claus at Saks Fifth Avenue in New York City.
It's a tragedy. It's tragic and it's heartbreaking.
It's just so terribly sad. You know, you would hope that everybody would have gotten out at least, and so they'd be alive to enjoy another Christmas.
Monday, neighbors dropped off flowers for the victims while investigators worked to figure out what sparked the deadly fire. Manuel Gallegos, CBS News.
Took me a minute to get it.
So yeah, that's
So Ryan, me and you called a little bit of jokes about ourselves a while ago, and we talked about, we'll say some of the things that we did. But as you watch that, you've got a lot of young children. You've got, how many kids you got, Ryan?
I have 5 kids.
You got 5 kids. Let me ask you a question. How could you live if that happened to your children?
I don't think I'd want to live. That'd be really heartbreaking.
It would be, because I know Ryan Reed is a dedicated father. I've met his wife, and I know I know his dreams in life and those kind of things. But you look at that, and these are the sadness that we see happening. And you see, that's what this program is all about. What we want to do is share with American consumers the dangers that lurk in their fireplaces, their chimneys, and other places. And even though, in one way, I hated to play that news clip, Ryan, because I didn't, but at the same time, unless you can understand it, I'm not sure if it gets through to you a lot of times. As you watch that news clip, what were the thoughts that went through your mind?
It's just unbelievable that something so small and overlooked can turn into such a tragedy like that.
Right. So here's the advice we want to pass along to you about ashes. You should always put your ashes in a metal container. And you need to have a lid for this container. And you need to store this container outside your home on a non-combustible surface, not on your deck. Because we have also seen fires occur when there was simply a bucket of ashes that ignited it. And if you also store them in your house, many of these ash buckets are painted. And what's going to happen, it can go from there. I'm going to have to see what, that Yvette just added. Sometimes it's a cold, honest truth that is the scariest thing in this or our trade. Now, so you folks know, Yvette is a really good friend of mine. She is Canadian. And like I said, we can't cross borders right now, but Yvette and I go back many, many years. So Yvette, that's exactly right. That is part of the problem in the trade that we do, is we find these type of issues all the time. And earlier today on Facebook forums that are in the industry, I saw people sharing tales about finding rings in floors. And this is from the bottom of the bucket where it almost ignited the deck and other things like that. So Ryan, let me ask you a question. Do your guys in this field, do they find people that are not storing their ashes properly by chance?
Yeah, a lot of people have a misconception of what they should be putting their ash in. Some of the buckets that they're putting things in only are a single layer. There's special ash buckets out in the field where there's double layer, which helps protect the heat from going down. But as soon as you take that ash out and you're putting it in that bucket, it's amazing how hot that ash container will get. So, what they'll do is they'll maybe sit it right outside of the house. But, we need to get this away from our home. We need to get it on an area, like Jerry said, non-combustible, maybe your driveway or some stones, but nowhere near any leaves or twigs or anything like that.
Yeah. Several years ago, one of the things that I do is I work in the court system is what's called an expert witness. And what I do is I get involved and go to actual fire scenes, and that it's been occurred that somebody feels the chimney or the fireplace or the wood stove could be at fault, and it could be at fault. And so what I did a couple of years ago, Ryan, it was actually in your state of Pennsylvania. I had a fire scene and I had to go work there. And this was caused by a bucket of ashes that had been stored on the deck and burnt this house down. Two elderly ladies lived there. They didn't get injured. But the thing is, they lost their entire home. They're drying it out. And Yvette's brought up another good thing, are people who are drying their wood right beside their stove and don't think it may also catch fire there. These are the dangers that's going on. Yvette has another comment here. One wondering, ash when emptying or reloading the stove, and you will lose your home. And that's why we recommend you put a lid on this. And the reason for that is, just imagine you had a bucket of hot ashes outside and a big windstorm came along and blew the top of those ashes. It could catch your grass on fire. It could catch your house on fire from there. So Ryan, we've covered ashes. Let me ask you this. What other types of things? Your company is one that looks at chimneys, I'm going to say it with an x-ray view, and that y'all take chimneys apart and get behind walls and things like that. So can you share with our listeners some of the things from, we're going to call it exploratory surgery, that your technicians may find behind those walls?
Sure. One of the misconceptions that most people have is that they think fire starts fire when it's really heat starts fire. And so, as we're examining our chimneys on a daily basis, we're doing our due diligence and we're trying to access every part of the house that surrounds a chimney. And we're looking for things that, might be up in the attic where people don't typically go, or down in the basement in the dark spaces where there's wood framing or any other type of combustible material like drywall or plywood that may be right up against the chimney or even embedded into the chimney. You'd be amazed what we come across, especially in older homes. There's stuff that's been in there 100 years. People say, well, hasn't caught fire in 100 years. What's going to make it happen now? It's just a matter of, specific circumstances, and it can happen.
Yeah. So Ryan, one of the things, you're in Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and for folks that may not know it, that's near, where is Bucks County? You're not far from Philadelphia. You're in kind of northeast Pennsylvania. Am I right?
Yeah, we're about an hour north of Philadelphia, right on the river, the Delaware River, which runs between Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
Right. So you're not far. It's not far to get to New Jersey from where you're at there. So let me ask you a question, because I hear a lot of times from your specific market area that many times one of the problems that y'all will uncover is wood under the fireplace floor. In other words, you got the fire brick, what we may call the firebox floor, or in the industry, we would call it the inner hearth. How big an issue is this that we have wood sitting basically just 4 inches below that brick?
Well, you'd be amazed what you can see when you look from the bottom up instead of the top down. So a lot of these fireplaces, they have ash pits, so when you're done burning the fire, you put the hot coals or your ash down inside of there. And when those hot coals go down there, they can get in contact with that wood or just the radiant heat going down. Many times our technicians are taking pictures with their specialized cameras, looking from the bottom up, and they're seeing charring that's happening. And, it's definitely very prominent in this local area.
Okay, so let's explain. You said specialized camera. Now I got my smartphone right there. Now, when we talk specialized cameras, are we talking their smartphones, their digital cameras? What are you speaking to when you say a specialized camera that a chimney sweep technician would use in the inspection process?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So we use two types of cameras typically. We're going to use a handheld camera, which is what anybody can go and buy. We take about 100 pictures of somebody's home when we do this, looking at specific chimney parts. But then to take things to a more specialized direction, we're going to have video cameras that are inserted. They're about the size of your fist, and they're going to be passed up through the inside of the chimney. They have the ability to increase or decrease the intensity of the light. They can rotate around. They can take still photos, and they can also take videos. And what we're looking at is, the internal conditions of the chimney, things you can't see with the naked eye.
Okay, so let me ask you this. How do you train people to do this today, Ryan? Because, there's a lot of skill in being a chimney sweep technician. You got to be a scientist. You got to understand pressures. You got to understand building codes. You got to be able to research. So how does your company train people to do that?
It takes a lot of work, and it takes the right people. But aside from that, we have the ability to have people like you that have been in the industry a long time that offer platforms to be able for us to go and get educated. Not only can we do things online at any time of the day, we have sessions we're set up where there's hands-on training, and there's yearly industry training that we go to. So our technicians are engaged into continued education, whether that's something they do on their own personal time or doing as an activity with the company itself.
Okay, so Yvette's added another comment. We recently had a shed fire up here in northern Ontario. The homeowner was heating a small outdoor workshop with this open door wood stove and cutting wood for new cabinets. Just the sawdust flying through the air has to be considered a combustible. And good point there, Yvette. I really appreciate what you're adding to this today for us. It's really great. But the point I'm trying to get here is when you call a company like Ryan, and Ryan, what's the name of your company up there?
It's Fireplace and Chimney Professionals.
And where are you located in Bucks County? What's that town that really don't have a whole lot in it up there?
That's the rural town of Kettnersville, Pennsylvania.
Kettnersville, Pennsylvania. Okay, so you'll know not a lot in Kettnersville, but you service a pretty good area out of there in the Allentown towards Philadelphia and all that. So the point I'm trying to make here is you need to have your chimney inspected on an annual basis. And companies like Ryan, they invest a lot of time, a lot of money, and they do this to provide you, the consumer, a great experience where you've got the right people that can come in and spot it. Now, this is one of the challenges. Building codes have changed. Over the last 30 to 40 years, there may have been things that were code compliant in 1980 or 1990 or even later that are not code compliant today. So a lot of times we're going to find things that are going to be wrong in your chimney or your fireplace that when it was built, it actually met code and standards, didn't it, Ryan?
That's right. What we're asking you to do is, are you willing to make improvements?
Right. Are you going to upgrade it to the present day codes and standards? And as a person that's been involved in development of codes and standards in the fireplace and the chimney industry quite a bit over my career, I can tell you that many codes and standards have been implemented for the safety of the consumer. For the safety of the consumer. So Ryan, anything else you want to add today to our conversation here that will add to this at all?
Well, there's a lot out there to educate people on. When we're talking about ash or fire safety, not only should you be looking or be cognizant of the ash that's in your ash bucket as you're taking it out, but also take a moment maybe just to look at the top of your chimney. As the season progresses, chimney caps can tell you a lot about the buildup that's occurring. If your chimney cap is starting to get any type of black residue on there, it's something to be cognizant of, and maybe that's should promote having your chimney inspected more than once a year or swept more than once a year.
Right. So if you're watching this, feel free to share this. Let's get the information out. Maybe by sharing the information of where someone improperly stored their ashes and it resulted in a fatality, a loss of life, or multiple loss of lives. That's our mission today. Whenever I saw this news story this morning come out and it talked about another incident in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia, it was like, God, we got to do a show today. And I wanted someone besides myself. And as I thought about that, it's like, I think Ryan Reed would be a great guy to put this out. So Ryan, let's do this. Give them your website name there in Kentnersville and also your phone number in case somebody's in your market area and they're looking for a really good company to come in and inspect and take care of their chimney and fireplace needs. How would they get in touch with you, sir?
Sure. So once again, we're Fireplace and Chimney Professionals, and we're in Kentnersville, Pennsylvania. We have a retail store as well as the ability to come out and do any type of inspection or repair. Our website is www.fcpros.com, and our phone number is 610-847-2530.
Yeah, call them. If you're in that Bucks County market area, I can guarantee you, I know these guys, they're going to take care of you, every one of them, Chuck and Matt and Mark and all the guys that come out in the field and the guys that do the repair work. They're really a great bunch of people. I've trained these guys. I know them personally. I'm giving a personal testimonial to the work that they can do and how they're going to be able to help you as a consumer. So I appreciate you joining us here on the Fireplace Show. We'll be doing these shows, quite regularly. And our whole purpose is to share with the consumers of America what is, how to use your fireplaces and chimneys safely. My next guest coming up is a gentleman by the name of Rick Blahos. We are scheduled to go live with him next Tuesday. And what Rick's going to do, hey, let me ask you about this, Ryan. He's going to go through with me the evolution of wood stoves from back in the 70s and the changes and what's happened over the years to make stoves more efficient and to create less pollution in the atmosphere. You think that's a pretty good subject for us to cover?
That's a great subject. Be amazed how many old wood stoves are still in our area. So yeah, you're going to learn a lot.
So my name is Jerry Isenhour. My company is CBC Success Group. I want to thank my friend Ryan Reed there for being with us today, and watch us for future episodes. Again, feel free to share this on your social channels to help get this message out to consumers, not just in America, but up there in Canada also, like my friend Yvette's here. Ryan, I'll talk to you later. I appreciate you being with me today, brother.